Are you a quilt rebel? Well, let's be rebels together. Hi, it's Donna Robertson
and Fran Morgan with Fabric Cafe.
3-yard quilts are written in such a super simple way. We have a system that sets you up for success every single time. We have fabric 1, which is usually the focus, fabric 2, and fabric 3.
Now, what if you want to be a little bit of a rebel and mix that up and change those fabric positions? Well, Sherry asked us about that.
Well, that's super simple to do, and we're going to show you how that works. So let's get a quilt up on the table and talk about it. So this particular pattern is called Fascination, and it is done exactly like I said with our super simple system that always sets you up for success. We have fabric 1, that's going to be your largest print. Then we have a fabric 2 and a fabric 3, and you compare those two and put the lightest in 2 and the darkest in 3. Now this might be just a little bit of a review for many of you, but I'd like to go over how we have written 3-yard quilts. Our system is so super simple, you shouldn't have any problem to succeed with every quilt that you make. We give you the black and white diagram, and then there are 3 boxes. And if you'll notice, the diagram has a polka dot fabric, a white, and a black. And that is to set you up for creating your focus fabric first. That's your number 1 fabric. And then you take that out of the equation, you look at your next 2 fabrics, and then you put the lightest in number 2 and the darkest in number 3. And every single time it will work, and it is just so, it's just like magic. It really is.
Yeah.
Now, let's show you in real life. Now, to start with, we have this gorgeous quilt, and we have the same focus, but we have 2 other fabrics. So we're going to show you, this is your focus. It's going to go in your largest position on the quilt.
It's so
super
pretty.
simple.
Very
it is.
fresh as spring.
I love the bumblebees and the butterflies. They're so cute. And then we take that out of the equation, and we compare the other 2 fabrics. We put the lightest in number 2, the darkest in number 3. So in this case, this is going to be here. The yellow would be here. And then the green is going to be in the center here, as well as out on the border. Now, Sherry asked, can you very easily switch those positions? Because sometimes you just want to move them around. So the answer is yes. Super simple. Just remember, always cut everything from each position as we spell it out.
The number 3, for instance, if you want to move it to 2 and 2 to 3, you can cut everything from the number 2 position from this fabric. From the number 3.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, and then everything from the number 3. Okay, I think I got that.
I think you got it too, and I bet you have it too.
Yeah.
Now, we have an image on the screen. The first image is how this quilt would look in the fabrics that we've selected. And as you can see, the border fabric is the darker green.
And this is how it's written in the pattern. This is how we set it up. Okay.
Okay. Now, if you want to switch that, you look at the second image, and you can see that we switched the green and the yellow, so it gives you a different look. It actually, comes forward towards you in different ways whenever you change those color positions.
That is really cool.
It is. The second image is a little softer look to me.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I
love both of them. I think both of them look great, but I really like the green kind of popping forward. I think that's a neat, different look.
So that is the super simple, basic way to look at it. And this particular quilt is called Songbirds and Sunflowers. It's the Fascination pattern from the magic of 3-yard quilts. And an alternate pattern would be Happy-Go-Lucky.
This is our interlock pattern. And as you can see, this pattern has a lot of interest going on, a lot of piecing, a lot of really cool places for your eyes to travel. And we have this made in our standard formula of focus being our largest print, our number 2 as the lightest print here in the background, and number 3 as the darkest print. But what happens if we switch that up? Let's put it on the table and find out. Okay, so we have some great fabric for this pattern here. And what's really different is our focus in this case is a darker fabric, whereas in the Fascination it was a lighter fabric. So how does that affect how it's going to turn out if we swap those around? But first, before we do that, let's look at this kit as it is now. So for focus being dark, it's going to go everywhere the little wavy purple print is here. And then of course we're taking that out of the equation, picking our lightest as our number 2 fabric. That is in the background here. And then the darkest of those 2 remaining is our number 3 fabric. And this is a cool print. It's kind of, I don't know, it kind of looks structured but not structured. It's kind of interesting. All these different colors, and you know I love all these colors. That is going to be where the purple is. That is our number 3 to give us this nice pop on our box there. So,
you know, this is one of those patterns that number 2 plays such an important part of where your eyes land, because when you have a busy fabric, your eyes want to immediately go to, let's go and rest for a second. We always call the number 2 the resting position.
Yes, definitely. But also this pattern is very dependent on contrast. So this kit has that contrast for you. So the first image, our focus fabric is in the focus position, and our 2 and 3 are in their normal positions. And as you can see, it has lots of pop. That white is in the background. It really helps the design of the pattern pop off.
I like that number 3, the way that it shows up.
Yeah, it's really, really pretty. Okay, now what if we switched the number 1 fabric and the number 3 fabric?
Oh,
so
okay.
Let's look at that image. Now what that does is it puts this darker fabric in that box. And then this becomes our focus, and it's kind of in a big square. So you can see it still looks really good.
It does. I like that. It's like it's just kind of goes to the background, and then that number 1 fabric is in what we say is the number 3 fabric.
So it looks really great, and really it's not a huge difference, but I really think that you could go either direction with that. Now, what happens if we totally change it up? So what if we swapped the 2 and 3 positions and put the number 2 fabric where the number 3 typically goes?
Wow, it looks like a totally different pattern.
It really does. And I think it also really conveys why we have our number 2 fabric where we do.
Well, actually, when we're designing, I know you do this too, we kind of move things around, and sometimes we'll pick out 3 fabrics, and then when we're designing and putting it into our image, we're like, I think I better find another number 2 or another number 1.
Right. But I still think my favorites are the first 2 in the lineup. So very cool. Now let's get this kit information for you, because this is really gorgeous fabric. This kit is called Electric Garden, and the name of the pattern is Interlock, and it is from the Make It Modern book. And an alternate would be Puzzle Me This.
Now, this one is a fun quilt. It's called Big Blooms, and I actually had some big bloom fabric that I put in the number 1 position, and I just had a lot of fun designing this and using a lot of busy fabrics, but using the contrast of colors to get that separation. So let's look and see what happens when we start moving positions around. In this particular quilt, we did have fabric number 1 was here. Then we compared our fabrics 2 and 3. So this is 2, it's the lightest, and then this is the 3.
Okay.
Now, this fabric we're going to use instead. So here I used big blooms. Here we're going to use little blooms, yes. And these little petite flowers are going to look adorable in this piecing.
Very sweet, very sweet.
So this would be our number 1. If we're making it just like the pattern says, we put that here in the number 1 position. And then we compare our light and dark. The light goes in this section, and then the dark will go in this section.
Okay, very sweet.
So very, very sweet. And let's look at an image so you can see how that looks. I think it turned out really, really cute.
I do too.
So the green is going to be where your bloom is, and I think it's going to be adorable with those other 2.
I love it. So what happens if we switch something up?
Okay, what would you like to switch up? Why don't we switch up 1 and 3?
Okay, good idea.
Okay.
Let's do that.
So the blue is going to be in your number 1 position.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Now we left the number 2 fabric right where it was. It's going to still be your background so that the remainder of the design will come forward.
Okay.
And as you can see, we've got the blue flowers on top of that light.
I like it.
I like it too. I think it looks really sweet.
I do too. It almost seems like the blooms are blue and now it has leaves because it's green. Okay.
Oh, well,
love that.
That's good, yes.
Okay.
You know, one thing about doing this is it really does give you a chance to get more creative with the patterns.
Yeah.
So let's really have some fun now and change every one of the positions, okay? I mean, we could just stay at this all day long.
Yeah.
Look at this image. Isn't this clever? We put the number 2 in the bloom or the number 1 focus position, and then we took that the background and we put the number 3 fabric in there. So that became our number 2, and you can see how that goes to the background. It really does cause those blooms to show up nicely. And then we put the number 1 in the number 3 position.
How interesting. It looks totally different. It's almost like it's a different quilt pattern, but it's not. It's it's the same pattern and the same fabric.
Right.
That's amazing.
And you know, we created the structure of the 1, 2, 3, and now you get to put your creativity into it.
Right. And you know, changing fabric positions and changing fabric in a pattern always makes them look so different.
And the kit information on this one is Farmhouse Favorite. It's the Big Blooms pattern from Quilts in a Jiffy, and the alternate pattern is Christmas Forest.
So here's our reflections pattern. And this is a cool one because we've got a big snowball block here. We have our number 3 that's kind of like in the background here because our number 2 is on this little box and on the border. So it's a little different. So let's see what happens when we switch up the fabrics. So reflections is one of my favorite patterns lately because I love the big snowball and the way this little alternate block goes together. I think it's really fun. And we've got some great fabric. And I love yellow and gray together.
Oh, I do too.
It's just so sweet, and it's kind of reminiscent of childhood for some reason, but just love this color combination. And this fabric with the pretty yellow and white daisies will go everywhere the snowball is here in this block. And we have just a little bit right in the center of our alternate block too. So that's going to be a nice big space for those flowers. Okay, so that's our focus. Now our number 2, once again, the lightest of the 2 remaining, is going to go everywhere this rusty color here is and on the border. And then our number 3, so sweet, and doesn't this go great together? Okay.
Love it.
Number 3 goes in the background where the black is here. So what that does is it really frames our snowball, and it really helps you see all of the little pieces and parts. So I have an image for you so that you can see what it looks like in the current positions of the fabric. And you can see how the black really helps the snowball pop. And then you create that little square, which is really lots of fun. Now let's swap the 2 and 3 positions. We are going to put the number 2 where the number 3 was. And as you can see, what happens is now the snowball is not as dominant in the pattern.
It's like the little squares are really dominant.
Yeah, and that's kind of cool. I really like the way it totally changed it. So it kind of gives you a lot of flexibility whenever you're choosing your fabric positions to kind of highlight an area that you want to highlight in your quilt, which is super cool. All right, let's get the kit information on this great kit. It is called Buttercup and Slate. This is our reflections pattern from our Stash Busting with 3-Yard Quilts. And an alternate pattern that we're suggesting is Sugar Pie. We want to thank Sherry for the great video idea today.
And if there's something that you would like to see, let us know in the comments.
And if you want to see some other ways to work with 3-Yard Quilts, be sure to check out the video that pops up.
It's Donna Robertson
and Fran Morgan with Fabric Cafe.